Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Working in Hockey, weekly podcast interviewing some of the coolest people in the game, weekly newsletter sharing all the open roles in the industry. Today's guest, normally I only have to introduce one job, remember what it is. This guy's got about 17 things on the go. Make sure I get the list right here, but the host of Morning Cup of Hockey, a super popular morning show on Daily Faceoff. He covers the NHL for Daily Faceoff. He does content for BR Open Ice and the NHL, VSN Live sports betting right now, as well as his infamous Blue Crew podcast. I'm sure I'm missing something, but Jonny Lazarus, welcome to the show, brother.
Nick, I appreciate it. Seriously. Yeah, the list, whenever I hear someone say it back, it's always funny to kind of from the outside perspective, listen to all the things I'm doing. But to me, it's just kind of like my daily routine. But yeah, we'll get into it, I'm sure, but it's been a pretty cool year, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, you got a lot of stuff on the go right now. So gun to your head, hard hitter right now. What's your favorite role? What's your least favorite?
Oh man, that's
No,
that's
I'm just
tough
I'm
off
just
the
kidding.
bat.
I'm just
Um,
kidding. I'm just
well, no, there
kidding.
there was one that I do love that actually wasn't there. I think doing the color commentary for Hockey East.
Yes.
That is something that is like a newfound, passion, which is really cool and something I never really thought I'd be doing. But yeah, that one's pretty cool too.
100%. That was in my notes and I missed it amongst
No,
the
you're good. You're
10
good.
other roles. So no, that's a super interesting one. I was able to tune into a couple games that you did this year and your co-host of Morning Cup of Hockey, Colby Cohen, he was doing the regionals. He crushed it this past weekend.
He's actually, it's funny. Doing a show with Colby is like kind of a full circle thing because when I was a senior in college in 2020, I reached out to Colby like cold, blind, on LinkedIn just for his advice, on getting into media. And Colby's a big reason why I like hung my skates up and really tried to pursue a career in media. And I don't know if a lot of people know that like origin story because on the show Colby gives me a lot of shit and people say he bullies me and whatnot, but behind the scenes and off the camera when we're not going at each other, Colby's been somewhat of like a big brother to me and I definitely wouldn't be where I am without his guidance and advice for sure. And I'm sure if he hears this, he'll give me crap for being nice and complimenting him, but he certainly deserves, you know, um, some credit just for, helping me and being there for me. And it's hard in hockey, as you know, Nick, right? Like there's not always someone to give you the proper guidance or direct you on a path on which way to go because everyone's story is different. But yeah, it's been really cool just like doing that show with Colby after, 4 years of our relationship.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's a bunch of different things I could segue off there. And one that I feel like I say in every episode right now is just reach out to people. Like, dude,
Mhm.
we're doing this show right now because we followed each other probably a year ago, reached out, chatted a couple times, and now we're here, right? I mean, I think you would echo that you've done that a million times, just talking to people. Like, that is how you get your name out there. That is networking at its core. That is how you get the things that you want by reaching out to people and asking and getting to know them, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's no harm in reaching out. And some people don't even, a lot of people I've talked to like will reach out once and not even follow up. Like I always gave it like three chances. And I think I got that from David Meltzer, who's a pretty popular entrepreneur. He always said like a rule of three. If whether you're scheduling an interview, if someone cancels once, you give them another shot. Always gives people three chances, just to reach back out or to follow up or to have a conversation. Because like if you don't follow up, I mean, it's so easy to miss a message or miss an email. Like I missed your email with the link to the show just this morning. So I think a lot of people sometimes I don't want to say like swallow their pride and don't follow up, but it's not something to be ashamed of if you reached out two or three times. Like in order to get what you want to get, you got to put yourself out there. So I would agree with that too.
Yeah, 100%. And circling back there, you kind of segued perfectly your college hockey journey. So played Division One NCAA hockey, graduated similar to I did, kind of during COVID, right, which made things tricky. But you did a million different jobs to get your foot in the door in hockey. So tell me a little bit about your transition from school, from your playing days, into getting into hockey media.
I mean, I always am careful how I say this. But like COVID was the best thing that probably could have happened to me for my career, just because, I was in that crossroads of do I want to keep playing? Like I knew my ceiling wasn't very high, or do I want to, get my career going? And listen, it's not like I was gonna jump right into hockey media right after school. Like I had to earn my way into it. I didn't go to school to study journalism. Like I was a communications major. I didn't do broadcasting in college. Like I just played and tried to do some other side gigs while I was in school. Like I did a talk show my junior year of college called The Laker Effect. Like we interviewed, it was actually pretty fun. We interviewed student athletes across campus and like challenged them to something in their sport at the end of the interview. So like, we played knockout against the basketball team. I actually like won the knockout game, which was pretty sick. Did a rowing contest against the rowing team, penalty kicks against the soccer team, like shit like that. And then that allowed me to get an internship my senior year at the Otters, where I did, like sit down interviews with guys like Jamie Drysdale. He was the player for Erie that year. That was nasty. Chad Yetman, and blanking on who else I did it with. But I think for me, having COVID like really put a pause on playing kind of allowed me to put my focus into like pursuing this media side. Um, and I think, what a lot of people don't know too, I was working a 9 to 5 corporate job till last summer. Like I was doing all this on the side. And I think that's something too that I think people need to understand is normal. If you want to do something that you're passionate about, there's going to be a lot of sacrifice made. Like you're not going to be able to go out with your friends on the weeknights. You have to, put the 2, 3 hours in when you get home from work. Like I was living at home on Long Island, commuting to New York City, hour train ride, getting in the office by 8:45, then training home, being home at like 6 o'clock, then like doing a podcast, then editing it all, skipping out in the gym, skipping out on plans with my friends. Like that's just but I loved it. Like I genuinely loved it. So for me, it wasn't like a sacrifice at the time. It was just this is what I got to do if I want to get my name out there. And I'm lucky that I don't want to say I'm fully lucky because I like to take pride in what I was doing and I think I'm good at it. But for it to happen for me was a result of putting in a lot of time. And I honestly I got lost in the original question, but for me, I guess transitioning into media was a lot of sacrifice and a lot of giving up time and losing sleep and all that stuff.
100%. I think you're hitting all the key points that I listed here. The sacrifice and the true love for it, right? Like you said, you were working full time. Like I still am. People are stunned when
Yeah.
they see, Hockey Collective has 415,000 followers. How are you working a full time job? Because hockey's tough, man. Takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of time, right? You got to put that grind in. You got to sacrifice those things, like you say, working 40, 50 hours a week and then doing your passion on the side. But that's the way that it goes. And funny you talk about the OHL there. Like I had a very similar start. Worked with the Youngstown Attack when
Mhm.
Nick Suzuki was there, Sean Dursey was there. Same thing, right? Interviewing them, and that kind of from a younger age helped me get comfortable on camera and doing some of this content stuff. But when you talk about kind of your adventures at school there and the talk show and the different games that you did there, was there like a light bulb moment where you decided, hey, I like talking, I like content, I want to be in this, or did you kind of just fall into it with some of those experiences?
Well, I actually originally got the joy for it. The summer of my freshman year, I played in this thing called the Maccabee Games. For those who don't know, it's like the Jewish Olympics essentially. Like you go to Israel and it's only Jewish athletes that compete. There were 5 countries there. It was the United States, Canada, Russia, Israel, and Germany. And on that trip, we're there for like 3 weeks. On that trip, our head coach Greg Gardner, who actually was my assistant coach at Mercier's, was a big reason why I transferred there because I loved him. He was awesome. He was so good to me. He just like wanted to do this like this film series on our trip called Lessons with Laz because I say a lot of stupid shit. Um, admittedly, and that's one thing I try to work on is thinking before I speak. But the guy, like I asked just like a lot of dumb questions to the tour guide, like genuinely dumb questions. So the guys had a good time with it, like you know, making fun of me and stuff. But I would just like walk around Israel at all these landmarks with a Powerade bottle, and I would interview guys in the team, just like shooting the shit, fun stuff, nothing too serious. But he would post them on Facebook, and like people on Facebook were loving it. So while I was just doing this thing that I thought was like fun and whatever, it turned out to be like, hey, like maybe I'm good at this and this is really fun, like something to explore. And that's when I decided to like do it in school after that experience. So it wasn't like I went to college to do this. It was somewhat of a joke that like, led me to find the passion for it.
Dude, it's funny how many people say that, like they stumbled into it with a joke or just being
Yeah.
themselves having fun with something. You find out what you really like and what you're good at too, right? another kind of transition period there going from your full-time 9 to 5 gig. What was that moment where you said, you know what, I can do this stuff full time now. I can fully devote to hockey. Not an easy decision either, I'm sure. Walk me through that.
Mm. Well, it's funny, honestly. So, like, I go to my office every Wednesday, Thursday. I worked for Sinclair, the tennis channel specifically, doing ad sales. And, I was constantly posting on social media, like what I was doing on the side. And there were a couple of days where, like, my company, like, saw my stuff. Like, I had told my higher up boss that I was doing the content series with Bleacher Report where I'd go skate and do the lap interviews. And, like, someone in the office, like, came across it one day and was like, hey, like, what, this is you? Like, what the hell? And then it was kind of hard to hide what I was doing. And I was in the office on the day where Vladimir Tarasenko got traded to the Rangers last year. So I was on Twitter the entire day, like at my cubicle. And it got to the point where like I couldn't really hide it. And my company like wasn't gonna fire me, like, because I wasn't like really slacking at work, but they knew my attention wasn't really there. And then this is where it got difficult. I got the job to do the Stanley Cup live show at the Stanley Cup final last year. So I was in Vegas in Florida. I had to use up all my PTO to do that. And, this was like, it's funny. My friends told me I was like the Hannah Montana of hockey, essentially, where like, I went to Vegas, did the show, went out with the Golden Knights the night they won the cup, and then took a red eye and was in my office the next morning after like celebrating with the Stanley Cup. It was like a crazy, like I just, if I was going to go all in at one point in my life, it had to be then. And, I had saved up enough money to like keep me going. By no means was I crushing it financially. It's just like a risk you have to take, I think, at a certain time. And, for me, like my bosses, I'm very lucky that the people I worked with were like very just understanding and like saw it in me and kind of like told me and encouraged me to go for it too. So it made that decision a little bit easier, but it really just got to the point where I couldn't hide how active I was in the hockey world.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good problem to have when it gets to a point where everybody's seeing your stuff who doesn't follow hockey or they're not
Mhm.
invested in what you're doing. That's probably a good sign that it's going well and it's time to go
Yeah.
all in, like you said. I
One
want to
funny
talk.
story though,
Yeah,
quick with that. Like I had a client, I forgot which company it was, but big hockey guy, and he like emailed me one day for like the numbers from like the first quarter or whatever, and then followed up with email like saw your like Rangers money line bet tonight. I'm writing, and I was like, oh my god, that's fucking hilarious.
they
You know what
better
I mean?
win. They better win, eh?
Yeah, like it was just to get that email like at work was just like, oh, people like see my stuff. It was cool, but it was weird.
Yeah, no, it's that's when that stuff really sinks in. Like I say, when people outside kind of your day-to-day world are seeing it and digesting it. I want to talk about the opportunity you've had with Daily Faceoff. Like I said, daily morning show, Monday through Thursday, you and Colby Cohen. Talk to me about the prep, what goes into a morning show. I think a lot of people see, it's 45 minutes an hour in the morning on YouTube. Oh, that's lovely. I'd love to do that. There's a lot of work that goes into that, man. Talk to me about the prep and the production of that.
Yeah, and I gotta give a shout out to our producer Vic because he is awesome. I mean, we are up. I'm a night owl. I'm up till like 1:30 every night, watching hockey, texting our group chat, like basically coming up with the topics that we need to talk about in the next morning. And then Vic will basically put our entire rundown together before he goes to bed. And then we wake up, we're usually on our computer by 8 a.m., talking for 50 minutes just about everything we're going to talk about on the show. Um, Colby's, when I'm at the Ranger games, Colby's watching the other games, sending stuff in. Like last night, for example, I couldn't really tune into the Flyers Islanders game, which was a big game because I was at the Rangers Penguins game. So, he's focusing on that end. Vic's watching the Leafs and Rangers. Like we're all just watching different games and kind of collaborating on what are the most important topics. But yeah, I mean, listen, we're up late. Um, you know, probably sleep like 5, 6 hours a night, excuse me. And there are some days where I'm able to nap, other days where I can't. Like, today isn't one of those days, but tomorrow is a day where I can take a nap, which is nice. So I look forward to that. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it's not like it's I watch hockey anyway. Like, so for me, it's not like it's like so much added work, but it is a lot to wake up and like be wired every morning. And especially me, like I'm not a morning guy at all. So I've had to like adjust and like learn to be one. But I always said, like, I'm sure you're gonna ask this, but I'll just jump to it. Like the reason why we wanted it, and like I don't want to say it was like my idea, but I always wanted NHL content fresh in the morning. Like I grew up a huge NBA fan as well, so I was always listening to Get Up or First Take to hear Stephen A. Smith, Alan Hahn, Greenberg, all these guys talk about the Knicks. Like that's what I loved as a kid, and there was never ever anything fresh about hockey. Like I never got to hear any fresh takes on the Rangers. It was always just the NHL Network reruns. So, I've been saying now that YouTube has become such a popular thing, and you can do a show from your own bedroom, like why not have that first thing when people wake up in the morning, if they want to hear hockey, come to us.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it stemmed from. And Colby, Colby had a lot of experience with the Daily Faceoff. I hadn't really known them very well. I interviewed Frank once at the draft, but Colby had been looking for a new show with Daily Faceoff, and Colby and I obviously had that relationship. So when I went to him, actually, I went to him with the idea because I was like, hey, this would be fun to do together. He brought it right to Daily Faceoff, and they loved it. And it was like a 3-month process to make it happen, but very lucky that they did, and it's been a blast so far.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it fills a bit of a void there for sure. And I'm sure you were the same as me. You're a kid, you're growing up watching Sports Center every single morning. You're
I
digesting
remember those.
everything that way, 100%. But
Mhm.
it never really evolved. Like Sports Center, Sportsnet, whatever, it's still there in the morning. You can still get your highlights that way. But like you said, kind of consumer focus has changed to YouTube, to social media. And, like you say, we're up late watching games. We're posting highlights then. We don't do a lot in the morning. So I think a morning show is perfect and much needed in the industry. And it's why you guys are seeing success already.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, it's been a blast, and hopefully this can go on for years. It's a kind of a trial and error right now to see if there was a need for it, but it's certainly grown, and it's been a lot of fun, and we're looking for new ways to innovate and all that stuff. So hopefully we see it grow a lot here in the next few months and weeks and whatnot until Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, for sure. And then another role that we touched on there with BR Open Ice, Bleacher Report Open Ice there. You are kind of known for your laps with NHL players, taking the camera out, asking them questions, doing a lap around the ice. How did the relationship with them come about? How did that idea come about? Is that something you wanted to do? Or tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, to be fully honest, like not my idea. I had connected with Evan Sporer, who runs BR Open Ice, probably a couple months prior, just like, a networking call. Like, hey, here's what I've done, here's what I aspire to do, and here are some ideas I have. That wasn't one of them. But I had a good relationship with Jared Kleinstein, who does work for Fresh Tape Media and Gondola, great stuff out in Colorado. I had interviewed him before, and they have a good relationship with Bleacher Report. So I guess Bleacher Report asked him if he knew any like up and coming hockey influencers, which I don't really call myself, but like whatever. And I guess Jared gave my name. So I was very lucky to like be the one that, Jared thought of, and they came to me with this idea, and I was like, oh my God, like that is the sickest thing ever. Like I get to skate around the ice with an NHL player, like sign me up, obviously. And it's been so wild. Like, there. I think most people would tell you it's hard when you're like in these things to really appreciate it. But those videos, when I like really look back on it, it's like, and the younger guys that I do it with isn't really as like a pinch me moment. But when I did one with Sid, um, that was just like the coolest thing ever. Like, you know what I mean? Just to skate around the ice with Sidney Crosby in full uniform and like make him laugh. That was a cool, like if my 15-year-old self saw that, like I don't like it's just crazy. So I feel very fortunate that, I was chosen to do that. And, I think what's cool for me about that too, and what people always ask me about, like, how do you get the players to open up in those videos? And it's really just them in their natural habitat. Like skating around the ice is like where they're comfortable. Jack Hughes and Sid were the only ones to ever stick handle during it. But it's just, it's different when you're like in dress clothes in the locker room, in a scrum versus just wheeling around with your buddy, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I always talk to them for like 2, 3 minutes, tell them like I played and all that stuff. Like, just try to like, you know, um, have something in common with them so they know I'm not just like showing up and whatever. And that's made it really easy. But yeah, those have been such a blast, and I'm really happy that a lot of people enjoy them too, because you don't really get to see, you know, the light personality of the guys a lot. So it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. They're everywhere, and like you said, it's hard to come find organic kind of interviews and content nowadays. Everything's scrums, or like you said, they change into their suits and then they're standing there reflecting on the game. This is the real them. You're getting the real personality, and I'm sure that video of Sid will stay in your camera roll forever.
Oh yeah. And it's funny too, like it's hard. It's hard to think on the
Yeah,
spot when I ask them these questions. Like I a lot of them get cut too. Like, these videos are trimmed down to like a minute. But I did one with Brandon Hagel on Tampa, and I asked him a couple of questions and he was like, dude, I don't know, man. Like I don't really have an answer. And I'm like, make something up. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's funny that like how much they actually like care to give a good answer, you know?
yeah.
And he was a beauty. He was really cool to hang out with too. But Bedard had a little bit of trouble with it. Like he couldn't really come up with much. Like I asked him what his song of the summer was, and he was like, "I don't even listen to music that much, man." And I was like, "Come on, like, say something."
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
wild answer.
but he's
That's
a
a
good
wild.
kid. He's a good kid.
Yeah, for sure. And you've got to interview him a couple times, I think, there, which is awesome. One other thing that I want to get into here, I think everybody online knows you're a big Rangers fan,
Oh
always
yeah.
have been. You've had the opportunity to cover the team, be in the coaches' scrums, pregame, postgame, everything this year. But like I say, you also cover the league as a whole. How has the balance been covering your favorite team, that one team, versus the whole league? I'm sure it's tricky at times, and people see it through different lights on both sides, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Ranger thing is interesting because I've always been a huge Rangers fan, but like I always say I love hockey more. Like I my favorite player in the NHL is Jack Hughes. I don't care that he's a devil. I love watching the kid play. I love his energy, attitude, everything about him. Um, and I think that's something that Ranger fans kind of give me shit for, which is fine. But you know what? Like when I'm in the Ranger locker room, like the first time I was doing it, um, my heart was beating through my chest. Like there's so much nerves that, go through you when you're walking into the locker room for the first time and have to like prepare a question to ask a player. But I'm also lucky in the sense that I grew up, pretty friendly with the Fox family. So I've known Adam since he's like 10 years old. So he made it pretty comfortable for me my first time in there, like, dap me up in the room and stuff. Like, um, and I texted him before, like, hey, like, gonna be in the room tonight. Like, give me something good.
Yeah, help me out.
So he was great and having him was great. Also there's been a pretty decent UMass presence come through the locker room in the last couple of years. Like Jonesy was a UMass guy after my time, but I've gotten to know him through a couple of mutual friends and stuff. So, there were some familiar faces, but it is hard to like separate that fandom and professionalism sometime. Like, I want to ask questions from a fan's perspective because I'm pretty in the loop on what the fans think, and it's hard to not take their opinion into account. Like I want to ask the questions that the fans want to hear. But also, I understand that the players don't necessarily want to answer those questions. So you have to find that balance. And then when it comes to the other teams, like I think it's actually been really cool to go. So now what I do for Daily Faceoff, I go to essentially every road team's morning skate,
Okay.
depending on who they're playing, because I try to do a story on the road team. Like, I did one on Pittsburgh, Florida, Philly the last couple weeks. So I get to go into their locker rooms after their morning skates, and just to feel the energy in all these different rooms is crazy. Like Florida and Philly, such fun locker rooms. Like after a morning skate, they're buzzing. Pittsburgh, Colorado, a little bit more serious, less joking around. And just like kind of feeling that is really cool. Not like, you hear coaches and players and all these guys in interviews say, we got a great group in the room, right? Like that's such a common thing. But being around it, you really see who does and who doesn't. Um, so it's cool to experience that stuff. And yeah, it's been awesome. Just like, sitting next to a guy in their stall, asking them, 5 or 6 questions, turning it into a story, and hopefully some people enjoy it. But it's been a blast, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
No, I'm sure it's a dream come true, and it only helps the matter that A, it's the Rangers, B, it's MSG. Like
Yeah.
you're buzzing in there. You've got all your childhood memories, and you're able to kind of tie that into what you're doing. I want to talk about your commentary with Hockey East as well. Been able to cover some games just this year, I believe. This was your
I did
first
like
year doing.
5 games last year, but
Okay.
this is my first full season.
How's that been? I mean, that's a different ball game. I'm sure you got an appreciation pretty quick for how difficult it is.
Yeah, it's hard. And I actually work with a broadcast coach for almost 2 years now. Her name is Jill Montgomery. She is awesome. She has done wonders for that aspect of my career. And it's like literally doing video with your hockey coach. Like she just, watches the game with me, breaks it down, gives me notes. Like I have a whole notebook of stuff, which is actually right here, a whole like Bible, she calls it, with all my notes just on, things to do, little tendencies that I have, things to watch out and catch myself doing. And, from my first game to my last game, it is a night and day difference in how I sound, in the way I talk, and what I'm looking for. And, I got this opportunity again, just like, you know, I want to share this like quote, I guess. This guy, Brandon Kaminsky, who started his own social media agency called Be Known. I interviewed him like 4 years ago, and he told me like one of the best things that I've, it stuck with me. Everyone in life always says it's not what you know, it's who you know, right? Like how often do you hear that saying? Brandon kind of twisted it and said, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And I think that just says a lot on like the impression you leave with people, and that's something that I've learned a lot now in this aspect of my career. Like, no matter who you're talking to, always just try to leave a good impression and be memorable. Um, and I think with this, I only played 2 years at UMass, like maybe 30 games total. And the fact that they like asked me to come do color for their games, I took a lot of pride in wearing that jersey. And I think that stuck with them. And when they were in a bind and needed someone to do color and they knew I was doing media, they asked me to do it. And I think, having that impact on wherever you are in life is so important. And it's something that I do take a lot of pride in. Like I said, like whoever I'm talking to, any conversation I have, you never know where people end up. Um, and I think that's something that's helped my career a lot. And I was fortunate enough to get that one opportunity with UMass, and then they gave me 4 more games, and then this year they gave me more games. And again, it's something that you work at, and it's just like practicing hockey. You're gonna get better with reps, and it's something I look to continue to do here in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer and kind of segues perfectly to the deepest on my list of questions here. We've touched on the sacrifice, the impression you leave on people, the hard work that it is. But what does Jonny think in his head makes you successful? What has allowed you to get to where you are in hockey media today?
Well, I have a saying here. I want to yeah, I want to get rid of the text, but that's my background. Good thoughts make good things happen. I actually got that from, I think, Patrick Sharp and Brian Bickle.
Hmm.
I forgot what I was watching on YouTube, but one of them said it to the other after a shift. And it's something that I definitely live by. Um, whether you're taking a test, playing a game, going out, if you think, oh, this is going to suck, like you already lost the battle, right? Like, but if you think, oh man, this is gonna be sick, this is gonna be fun, like, just giving yourself that mental talk, and I have learned to appreciate how important mental talk is. Like, I'm someone who definitely beats myself up a lot, and it only hurts me. Um, but just going in with a positive mindset and choosing the positive, right? Like it is a choice. Like there are happy people and there are negative people, and you can pick which one you want to be. But I think that has helped me along with my career. Um, even a little thing like, I give a lot of dumb takes out on Twitter. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not shy about it. I also see a lot of dumb takes on Twitter, but I'm not one to like go after somebody. Like what's the point in that? Um, I don't know. I'm not saying people shouldn't, but like I don't know. I just think just choosing the positive side of things has benefited me, uh, more than other things.
Yeah, I think that's very well said, and that's a great little quote. Mine is always you'll never have to question my effort, and whether
Yeah.
that's relationship, work, anything you're doing. Like if you can tell yourself that nobody will ever question your effort, you're going to push yourself to work harder no matter what.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of similar vein there. Going to wrap this up with a couple of rapid fire questions here. Super easy. Give me a couple word answer, whatever comes to mind. Similar to your one lappers. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Favorite memory or experience from working in hockey so far?
Interviewing Sid.
Gotta be. Gotta be.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hardest part about working in hockey.
Oh man. Sleeping.
Yep, yep, very true.
Not a
Like
lot
you
of
said,
sleep.
late
Yeah.
games go till 1 or 2 in the morning. It's not a lot of sleep always. We've shouted out Colby Cohen plenty in this. Name a coworker or peer other than Colby that has helped you the most in your career so far.
Um, Kenny Albert's one that comes to mind. He is the nicest man on the planet, always in my corner, texting me. Alan Hahn, another one. Um, Mike Rupp has become, a very, I guess, good friend of mine as of late. I talk to him a lot now. Michael Delzato, another one. I mean, there's so many people who I have like met through interviewing them and just become friends with, like the empty netter guys, the chicklets guys, all these people that like you just have a couple interactions with, you know, um, that are just like in your corner after that. I'm sure there's probably more that I'm missing, like even Frank Saravalli. Um, it's hard to really pinpoint a few because it's really everyone that you meet,
Yeah.
and I feel like when you just have those relationships, it's just like it's everyone's in your corner, you're in their corner. It's a very supportive community.
Yeah. Top skill that you've developed in hockey media career.
Getting players to loosen up.
Hmm. It's a big one.
It's hockey is a sport that I think is just taken way too seriously a lot of the times. And I am not someone who takes myself too seriously. And I just try to bring that out in the players.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a good one. Best player that you've been able to call a game for.
Ooh, probably Macklin Celebrini, I would
Already,
imagine.
eh? Already.
Yeah. Or
Sheesh.
I did BU NBC this year. Like he's probably right. He's probably the best individual player, I would imagine,
Yeah.
on both teams.
Yeah, I think so. We talked about who the coolest interview was, Sid, obviously.
Mhm.
Most nervous you've been for an interview.
Ooh. Um, that's tough. Maybe McDavid, just because, he's been known to like not love the media. So I was a little nervous for that one for sure.
No doubt, no doubt. And again, to wrap us up with MSG, the Stanley Cup final last year, everything you were able to do. Favorite venue you've been to in sports?
Favorite venue I've been to in sports. The first one that this is so random. The first one that came to my mind was I'm not even a baseball fan, but I went to Wrigley Field for a Cubs game
Yeah,
and I thought that was sick.
yeah,
Like just everything around it is unbelievable. Like Wrigleyville, Chicago in the summertime, there's nothing like it.
yeah,
And again, not a baseball guy, but the Winter Classic is there next year, so I'm sure that'll be a pretty sick vibe, I guess, for lack of a better term. Yeah, that is a hell of a place to catch a sporting event.
yeah. I'm pumped for the Winter Classic there. I think that's gonna look amazing.
Sick.
But Johnny, dude, can't thank you enough for doing this. Like I said, I think you've got a very relatable story and journey, and I think it screams out that hard work will get you places. So thank you again for doing this, sharing your story. Tell the people where they can find you.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate it. And just on Twitter, like JLazzy23, I post everything there. So that's like the hub of my work. So just there. But Nick, seriously, love what you're doing, man. Like I think if I was a younger kid too, this is something I would be certainly craving. And I'm still craving it now, even as a 28-year-old. But again, the hockey community is very tight knit and what you're doing is great. And hopefully it creates more opportunities for younger guys and
Yeah,
girls.
absolutely. No, appreciate that. And yes, great to have you on here. Be sure to check out Morning Cup of Hockey Monday through Thursday on YouTube. Johnny, we'll catch you for a beer soon in New York.
Sounds good, brother. Thank you.
All right.